Learn to improve conversions and generate more leads with the video podcast at marketingoptimization.tv. Hi, and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're chatting with Kyle Racki. How you doing, Kyle?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Kyle is the CEO and co-founder of Proposify. To get started, what would be your definition of optimization, and why is it beneficial?
I guess I would define optimization as, taking something that's already working really well and getting more out of it. So, instead of spending more money on, whatever else, paid advertising or whatnot, you can actually save a lot of money and actually make more money by just optimizing what you have and making it work better for you. So it's beneficial because it could actually make or break a business, especially a startup. The difference between like 2% conversion and 5% can mean whether or not you keep the lights on next month.
Yeah, definitely. And I was, I saw your presentation at CRO Day with Unbounce, and I really liked the approach that you're doing. You co-founded a Saas company, and you'll tell us all about that. And today we're going to talk about how to convert those free trials into paying customers. And originally you were a designer, and then you went freelance, and you ran an agency for a while. It sounds very familiar here. Can you tell us a little bit how you got to Proposify, and what is it?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy now thinking back of how it all happened. But I started out at 19 years old was when I got my first job at an advertising agency, and this was like early 2000s. The web was kind of not quite what it is today. We were doing a lot of print work, and that was all I had ever aspired to was working in agencies, being a designer. Hopefully one day be a creative director or something like that. But then it was all very organic. Eventually, I got sick of working for people. I hated having to listen to people I thought were idiots, and wanted to do it myself because I could do it so much better. And of course, I learned a lot of mistakes in the process and learned that it's not as easy as it looks. So I went freelance, was just doing design work, doing web design, development, kind of self-taught web developer, not a very good one, but enough to get by and know, what not to do. And I did that for about a year. I started to get really lonely. I missed working with the team. So I had a friend that I knew at an agency who was kind of like the BD sales guy there that I got along with really well. Actually, he really helped coach me into being an entrepreneur because he was in the past life as well. His name's Kevin Springer. And then, as I started doing really well with my freelance, and I was like making way more money than I had been at the agencies, but I kind of wanted to build something and have a bigger team behind it. So I said to Kevin, hey, why don't you leave your agency, jump ship, and come build Headspace with me? And so that's what we did. And even then we kind of had, you didn't have this big vision to like build a massive like Saatchi and Saatchi or anything. It was just kind of, keep it local, keep it small. We did that for about 5 years. But even before, when I freelanced, I always had this idea of like, I want to build a SaaS product. I want to actually have like the base camp of proposal software. Because when I had worked in agencies at a past life, I was cranking out proposals and then doing them as when we started running our own agency. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I had this dreamed up mock-ups that I sat on for years of like, this would be really cool proposal software. And then as we started building the agency, what happened was, like a lot of agencies, we run into issues with cash flow, how long it takes to close new work, kind of a lot of the stuff that a lot of small agency owners face, we were struggling with. And we would have like great years, and then we would have terrible years. And we were kind of like, we want to build something that's kind of more long lasting. It's got more residual income. And so then we were like, let's try to build this product in-house and try to build, what's now Proposify. And it started out that way, but then we, building when you're already running like an agency that's, narrow, thin profit margins, and trying to bootstrap a product in-house and make that successful too is a big challenge. So we ran into a lot of issues with that. But finally, I think what we were able to do to get it off the ground was just we were able to hire a developer in-house to just work on the product for a year, did a lot of customer development. It was a terrible product for a long time. And finally, we got it to the point where we were kind of like, we have to like shit or get off the pot and do one or the other. So we ended up selling off the agency, raising a seed round for the product, and now we've been doing that for that's been about a year since we left the agency.
Very cool. And before we jump into the content, converting free trials into paid subscribers, let's talk about the product, because I think that's one of the core foundations of your presentation. You talk about getting the product market fit. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you got there?
Yeah, so the idea, like I mentioned, with the product was always we wanted to, proposals suck. Nobody likes writing them, especially if you're a designer or a developer or you run an agency. It's like proposals cost you time and money, unless you win them, but you may not win them. So it's kind of a gamble as far as you're going to put in, some people put in days writing proposals, especially if it's a big project. And then they're all disorganized all over the place. They might be in Google Docs or Dropbox, and you're like, oh, I wrote a little piece about branding or something like way back 6 months ago. Where's that little piece of text I want to find? So it's kind of Proposify is like a way to keep all that together, keep it all streamlined, so you can be like, here's my proposal deal list, here's all the proposals I have to work on, here's when they're due and who's assigned to them. And then when you actually start working on them, it's kind of like a little mini InDesign in the browser. So you've got total control over the design, the look and feel. You can send it out to your clients and then see, okay, did they open the proposal? Where did they look? Did they look on the pricing section? How many minutes did they spend looking at that? So you get all kinds of cool little insight into your proposals. And of course, it syncs with like CRM software and invoicing software. So it just keeps it all together for you.
Very cool. So, as you are building your SaaS product, what tools have you been using to, collect that quality of data, the feedback and analytics?
I mean, really, email and phone is the number one tool. It's hard to get people to use a product, especially when it's new, because it's going to be terrible. Especially if you're kind of a little overly ambitious with what you want to build at the beginning. So, once you get even one or two people just using it and giving you feedback, just trying to milk as much of that from them as you can. What I do now is we have automated emails that go out like when new users come on board and after they cancel and, even after they upgrade to a paid account, and we say, hey, I want to jump on the phone with you and find out what you like, what you hate, and just make it a better product. And so, we use tools like, just kind of listed them out. So if we're talking like qualitative data, I do a little bit of surveying with SurveyMonkey. I don't send out a lot of surveys, but every now and then kind of send one of those out. Use a lot of like spreadsheets and Evernote just to store, like I had a customer development phone call about an hour before this, and I just wrote it all out in Evernote. After the call, I kind of flushed it out and just added a little more detail to it, and then just posted a link in our Trello board where we keep kind of all our customer suggestions. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little guy who wants to join in.
What?
Yeah. Okay. You got to let me talk now. Sorry about that. I'm very professional here. What else do I use? So I've used in the past usertesting.com, which is kind of valuable when you want to actually just get a firsthand look at, what a new user sees. That can be useful. You always find bugs that way. And then we also use a tool called Groove for customer support, and that's where we keep a lot of the information about bugs people find, ideas, suggestions, and that sort of thing. So that's on the qualitative side. And then did you ask about the quantitative side or want to know about? Okay, so on the quantitative side, we use Kissmetrics to store, all of our usage metrics and what features people are using and how many times they do whatever, create proposal, invite user, all those kind of things. And then the great thing about Kissmetrics is you can tie that information or that data together with other metrics. So you can say, like, for everybody who created an account, how many created a proposal within the first 10 minutes or whatever. And then you can also then filter that and see, like, okay, out of all those sets of information, where did people originally find us? Was it through a search engine or was it through a referral link? So it's really great to tie together like your marketing and how, if there's any patterns that you can find in okay, we actually get more people who use the product than that come from search engines than that come from our whatever paid campaigns, that kind of thing. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're segmenting down to the individual user level with KISS metrics and following that person through your funnel. And we're not going to talk about the lead generation process today, but you're generating leads from your homepage or your specific campaigns, and now and the offer that you're proposing is a free trial. So let's talk about how do you convert those free trials actually into paid customers? Is there a process that you go through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try to have it as automated as possible. I mean, sometimes we get asked questions like, "Do you have a sales team, and how do you guys find customers and that sort of thing?" And when it's a SaaS product, especially one that's like SMB focused, having an outbound sales team really doesn't do a whole lot because people are going to find you through like hearing about you or clicking a link on social media or whatever. But once they get into that trial, I mean, that's essentially leads in the door. You need to close it somehow. And it's a combination usually of things that are automated within the product itself and then a little bit of personal one-on-one hand-holding that can sometimes also close deals.
Yeah. And in your presentation, you talked about finding your trial users' activation triggers. Can you speak a little bit about that?
This is one thing. I mean, I'm a huge fan of customer development. I don't think it's something that founders should ever really stop doing. So it's something that you find when you do a lot of customer development, or when you, in combination with that, you also look at your KISS metrics info or whatever tool you use to track usage, right? So to use the example in the presentation, one was, and I remember hearing about this, I think from Dan Martell once, who was talking about Twitter, how they found, and I could be saying the wrong thing, but you'll get the idea. So for every person who starts a new Twitter account, they found that if people follow or send out more than 10 tweets within the first 5 days, they'll be a lifelong user. Those numbers might be wrong, but pretend they're right. So when we're looking at that kind of thing, so we look at the information, we see how many people are churning and how many people are converting, and we see things like people who click on the help widget are actually 2 times more likely to convert to a paid customer. That's very counterintuitive. You'd think people who are clicking on a help widget are struggling and they're going to churn because they find something difficult to use. We found the opposite through looking at data. And also things like people who send proposals within a certain amount of time throughout that trial are probably more engaged with the product, because you're not really going to send it unless you're seriously considering using it, even if it's just sending a test to yourself. So once we look at that information, then we can change our onboarding to really push people into performing those actions that are going to make them more likely to get hooked on the product. And we can do that through in-app messages or through emails saying, "Hey, we noticed you haven't sent a proposal. Here's how you do it. Are you struggling with anything?" You can automate all that stuff. And then if they respond to you, that's when the personalized service comes in, and you can either jump on the phone with them or email them back and find out what's causing the issue. And oftentimes that helps you really create a really good relationship with them.
Yeah. And you mentioned it, that onboarding process is pretty much the journey that you want to take them on. You want to lead them down the path, whatever works for you. It might be a tour, it might be the chat pop-ups, but you can, as you said, you can automate a lot of that process. But if you can really figure out what that ideal click map is, that people go through, do they get, looking for help? Do they get involved in the community? Do they contact you? What are those particular activation triggers that happen along that whole entire customer journey to make them more of a qualified subscriber? And once you kind of understand that, then you kind of have the mindset of what's going on. But during that onboarding process, I guess my question is, too many people come to me with SaaS products and they want me to review their product. I immediately sign up as a free trial, and I go to the first page and it's like, you expect me to figure out what to do? Just get the person involved in the way in the right way. And how do you measure all of that? Is that all done through KISS metrics? It seems like all these different scenarios. How do you make sense of it all?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that some of the mistakes that people make, especially when their product is new and they're still testing out a lot of onboarding stuff, is they try to, if they're smart enough, they know that you don't just dump people on an empty dashboard screen right after they sign up for a trial. You need something to kind of walk you through or guide you through setting you up and activating you. But I think sometimes people try to probably cram too much in there, and it's like a 12-step feature tour of we do this and we do that, and you can connect with all your third-party apps, and people get overwhelmed. So we found that actually 3 steps seems to work the best. I don't know. I guess as humans, that's the way our minds are geared towards 3. Like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, whatever. Every story has 3 parts. I don't know why 3 is a magic number, but for us it was. So what we ended up doing is just through talking to customers early on, we found that a lot of people were saying, and this was before we had this feature, so we didn't actually have a feature called templates in our system. The idea was, and it made sense to me because nobody has like an InDesign proposal template. They just have a proposal, and then you make other proposals from that. So we just had the ability to make proposals and save sections in your library and that sort of thing. But we had like a significant amount of people coming to us saying, where's the templates? And we were like, well, your proposal is a template. Think of it. All we did to make that change to the product, and this was, by the way, we had like 20 customers. Like we had not even close to hit product market fit yet. But as soon as we just said, okay, you know what, let's take the proposals and let's make a new section called templates. And other than that, it works the exact same way. We noticed like big spike in people converting to paid after. And so then what we ended up doing is making a 3-step onboarding process. So you sign up for an account. Step 1, pick a template. Step 2, pick a theme. And then step 3, you can invite some people, which we wanted them to do because, it means more money for us if they've got more people in the system. But it was just like template, theme, you're done. Now go into your templates and start editing. And that flow seemed to take us from like 20 customers to 40 in a month.
Mm-hmm. And what is your threshold to reach as far, I guess it's related to your plans. Can you make a certain amount of templates or a certain amount of proposals before you have to start paying?
We've always done unlimited templates.
Okay.
That's an interesting thing. And that, I could probably talk about for a long time is how you price your SaaS product and what are the different things you actually charge for. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want me to go into that, but
I'd just be curious if you have tips or best practices on actually testing price.
We've done a lot of testing of our prices, and we probably still don't have it 100% right, but I can kind of tell you what we tried.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this was around the time where the product was actually getting pretty good, and we were starting to convert people into paying customers. Pardon me. And so one thing that we did was we just looked at a lot of this like CRM apps and instant chat apps, and they all seemed to price per user, which you thought, okay, that makes sense. Let's just do like $15 a user. And that, we were getting a lot of customers, and sometimes we'd close, in our head, we thought you close a big company, they've got 20 people who need to use it, that could be a decent sized account. But what we found were because people don't, they don't value the product more based on the amount of users in our system the way they might with a CRM. It actually really made no sense to price it that way because we were leaving a lot of money on the table. We had people with these tiny accounts because they might have had 20 people, but they were like, I don't want to pay for them to use the system. So they just kept that one account. And I read a post, which I can share. It wasn't, I'm trying to remember where it was right. I think it was Price Intelligently. And it was a really good post about how you need to find your value metric. Like, what is it in your SaaS product that the client or the customer values? So, for instance, with Dropbox, they don't charge per user. They charge per, like, how much space you have. Because that's why you're buying the product. That's how you value the product. And so with a CRM app or with an instant chat app, they're not going to charge you per message or per contact because that wouldn't make sense, but charging per user makes sense for them. So we kind of sat down and thought, what do people actually value with us? And we kind of came to, It was the amount of proposals you write. It was like somebody who writes one proposal a month isn't going to value our product as much as somebody who writes 50. So have, put the tiers, go back to tiered pricing and put the amount of proposals as sort of how you price the product.
Very cool. And so now we've talking about bringing the customer in, the user experience, making sure that you have a good enough product that people actually want, finding those activation triggers, user onboarding. And now I think it's more of the persuasion or the copy. How do you really get them to pull out their credit card and make that next step?
I think it's one of those things where, you need to lay the groundwork up front. And if you do that right, then them pulling out their credit card isn't that hard, right? I think what I've seen some SaaS products do, and what we've done in the past, which isn't work, is they go in for the big hard sell at the end of the trial, but they haven't laid the groundwork first. So they'll go in and be like, we'll give you a 50% off discount on your first 3 months if you sign up today, and do that kind of stuff. And I've found that doesn't work at all if the product's not there, and if you haven't done a good enough job onboarding them. If they haven't used the product, that's not going to convince them. So I think the onboarding process is a combination of, number one, having a really good email drip sequence is really important, and being able to vary the emails based on what the person's actually doing. So if somebody isn't engaging with the product at all within that first week, don't send them tips on how they can generate more proposals or anything like that. I mean, start with the basics. You haven't even edited your template yet. Do you need help? Is there anything that's not clear? That kind of stuff. But let's assume you've done all that and you get to that final stage. I mean, a lot of it's kind of just CRO 101, I guess, in a way, right? Like when the customer gets that last email that says your trial's up, do you want to upgrade? Keep it really simple. And once they get to the page, it's just like common e-commerce best practices, show a lot of little security icons, show them their data's secure, how much they'll be charged, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that matters. I don't think people often think about that enough, maybe in SaaS, is making sure your credit card screen looks secure and trustworthy.
Yeah. Too many people just make assumptions. Oh, I'm going to put up this nice UI, and I'm going to use these flat buttons and these nice looking form fields, but I'm not going to put a security logo.
Yeah.
So you don't want to make assumptions. Almost everybody at every different level is going to be creating proposals. So your target audience may not necessarily think that you're not going to steal their information or not. So you want to make sure you have those trust symbols there as well. So let's tell people a little bit about you, how people can find out more about you, and what do you have going on?
Well, I mean, people can find out about me on Twitter. My handle's Kyle Racki. I've also got a personal blog that I write on kyleracki.com, which people can check me out there, connect with me that way. I also have a weekly podcast that I do with my other co-founder, Kevin, called Agencies Drinking Beer. So we target a lot of agency owners, from just small freelancers up to bigger agencies. So every week we get on either the phone or have them in person if it's local, and we chat with an agency owner. And sometimes we get drunk, and magic sometimes happens. Or chaos, I don't know. So people are liking that. We're only about 12 episodes in, but we're getting pretty good feedback on that.
Cool. What's the name of that show?
Agencies Drinking Beer. So you can find that in the iTunes store, and it's also right on the Proposify site. If you go to resources, you'll see podcasts there. And we always publish a lesson from an agency owner each week.
Oh, very cool. And it's always good as an agency owner to improve your cash flow, include your networking. There's always more to learn in that aspect. I'll definitely check it out and subscribe to the show. To close out, what would you tell optimizers to do to really take their SaaS conversion rates and their business to that next level?
Well, I mean, I guess it always depends at what stage you're at. Like I've had, just to give an example, there's somebody who was asking some of my advice on their early stage SaaS product, and they're talking about like a 3-year marketing plan. And it was like, you don't even know if people will buy it in the first place. So don't think about marketing. So I think what a lot of times people do is they try to over optimize too early, and they end up burning through all kinds of resources prematurely. So I guess I would almost say err on the side of caution and optimize later. Nail down product market fit first, and just obsessively worry about whether or not the product really solves a problem and people are happy. Start measuring that kind of stuff, usage metrics, and then start optimizing. And like run small tests. Don't assume anything. Just like with the whole help widget converting 2x. Optimization doesn't always make common sense. And so sometimes people will just go ahead and make changes or change pricing or change a feature because it intuitively feels like the right thing to do, but they don't actually take the time and measure it first, and also wait enough time. Don't run the test for 3 days and then expect like, okay, clearly this has changed. I've seen things where it's like 3 days in and the test is showing like this headline converts like this. We should change it across the board. We're losing customers. But then you wait a week and it flips. So make sure there's enough data coming in there to make intelligent decisions.
Very cool. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Kyle.
Thanks a lot for having me. Lots of fun.
Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.